Conditions for international trade, comparative advantage and a fair price range. Hello everyone. In the previous lesson, we learned about absolute advantage and comparative advantage. Today, we will define the two conditions that must be met for international trade to actually take place, and we will see that when these conditions are met, both economies improve their situation. Let's start with the first condition, comparative advantage, meaning specialization in production. We already saw in the previous lesson that absolute advantage is not what determines whether trade is beneficial, but rather comparative advantage. As you recall, economy A has a comparative advantage in cheese, and economy B has a comparative advantage in milk. This specialization is the foundation of trade. Each economy produces the product in which it has a comparative advantage, and then they trade with each other. Let's state this formally: the necessary condition for international trade to exist is that each economy specializes in the production of a certain product. Without specialization, there is no basis for trade. Let's see how this works in practice, with the example of cannons and tanks. Economy A has 100 workers, each worker can produce either 1 cannon or 4 tanks. In total, the economy can produce 100 cannons or 400 tanks. This is its production possibilities curve. Before trade, when resources are allocated evenly, 50 workers produce cannons and 50 produce tanks. So economy A's production and consumption point is 50 cannons and 200 tanks. Economy B has 50 workers, each worker can produce 2 cannons or 2 tanks. In total, the economy can produce 100 cannons or 100 tanks. When resources are allocated evenly, economy B's production and consumption point is 50 cannons and 50 tanks. As you recall, economy A has a comparative advantage in tanks, and economy B has a comparative advantage in cannons. Now, suppose they decide to trade, and we set the price of 1 cannon equal to 2 tanks. What happens? Economy B, which has a comparative advantage in cannons, will produce only cannons. It produces 100 cannons, keeps 50 for itself, and sells 50 to economy A. In return, it receives 100 tanks. So after trade, economy B has 50 cannons and 100 tanks. Before trade, it had only 50 cannons and 50 tanks. It improved its situation. And economy A? It has a comparative advantage in tanks, so it will produce only tanks, 400 tanks. It sells 100 tanks to economy B and receives 50 cannons in return. It is left with 300 tanks and 50 cannons. Before trade, it had 200 tanks and 50 cannons. It also improved its situation. This is the beauty of international trade: both economies improve their situation. Each economy's consumption point moves beyond its production possibilities curve, which is something unattainable without trade. Each one leverages its comparative advantage, and both benefit. Now let's move to the second condition, a fair price range. Without a fair price, even if there is a comparative advantage, trade will not occur. The idea is simple: the price must be good for both economies, such that neither side exploits the other. How do we determine the fair price range? We look at the opportunity costs in both economies. In the milk and cheese example, in economy A, 1 ton of milk equals 3 tons of cheese. In economy B, 1 ton of milk equals 1 ton of cheese. So the fair price range for trading milk is 1 ton of milk equals between 1 and 3 tons of cheese. Why exactly this range? Because in economy A, producing milk costs 3 tons of cheese. If it can buy milk for less than 3 tons of cheese, it's better off buying than producing itself. In economy B, producing milk costs 1 ton of cheese. If it can sell milk for more than 1 ton of cheese, it's better off selling. Any number between 1 and 3 is a fair price. For example, 2 tons of cheese per ton of milk, or 2.5, or 2.9. Any number in that range works. We can also look at it in terms of cheese. In economy A, 1 ton of cheese equals 1/3 of a ton of milk. In economy B, 1 ton of cheese equals 1 ton of milk. So the fair price range in terms of cheese is, 1 ton of cheese equals between 1/3 and 1 ton of milk. The rule is, the boundaries of the range are exactly the opportunity costs of the two economies. The lower bound is the opportunity cost of the economy that produces at lower cost, and the upper bound is the opportunity cost of the economy that produces at higher cost. The fair price must lie between these two bounds. Let's also see this in the cannons and tanks example. In economy A, 1 cannon equals 4 tanks. In economy B, 1 cannon equals 1 tank. So the fair price range is, 1 cannon equals between 1 and 4 tanks. Any number in this range, like 2 or 3, is a fair price that benefits both economies. Now, an important question: if the range contains so many possible prices, what determines the final price? The answer: negotiation. The final trade price is determined by negotiation between the two economies. The range tells us what is possible and fair, but the specific price within the range depends on the bargaining power of each side. If one economy has greater bargaining power, the price will lean toward what benefits it. But as long as the price stays within the fair range, both economies will gain from trade. Let's summarize the two conditions for international trade to exist. First condition: comparative advantage. Each economy must specialize in producing a certain product. This creates the basis for trade, because each brings something unique to the table. Second condition: a fair price range. The trade price must lie within a range that benefits both economies. This range is determined by the opportunity costs of the two economies, and the final price within the range is set through negotiation. When both conditions are met, international trade improves the situation of both economies. Each economy specializes in what it does best, produces that product, sells it to the other economy, and in return receives the product it is less efficient at producing, at a price that benefits it. The result: both economies can consume more than they would without trade, and their consumption points lie beyond their production possibilities curves. This is David Ricardo's theory, which showed that even when one economy is better at everything, it still benefits from trade, because what matters is not who is better absolutely, but who is better relatively.